Good evening, Red. Would you believe it's Dr. Doom? What's on your evil mind? Hold your insulting tongue and mark my words well.
How about this rumor that you are really hired, Mr. Stark?
It was December 24th on Hollis Avenue, the dark, when I seen a man chilling with his dog at the park. I approached him very slowly with my heart full of fear. Looked at his dog, oh my God, a ill reindeer. But then I was feeling good, the man had a beard and a bag full of goodies, 12 o'clock at night. So I turned my head a second and the man was gone. But he must have dropped his wallet back down on the lawn. I picked the wallet up and then I took a pause.
And hello and welcome to another exciting episode of the Comic Book Chronicles podcast. Yay! I am not your host, one Tim DOGG98, because he is
on vacation.
On vacation, taking a Christmas holiday, like the good peoples do. And also, I'm not PC_Dirt, who is still on his sabbatical, but he is with us in some sort of spirit form, not Sith or Jedi.
Oh no!
Sith doesn't have those, so that's anyway. But hopefully we'll see him on the next show, which would be the year-end show. The next,
yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, well, we're still working on that because, like, Tim's going to be off for the next couple of weeks, and
right.
So we're handling that. But anyway, with me, the man, the myth, the legend, the soundboard supreme. Wait, that's not right. The soundboard man of excellence. There you go, Agent _70. What's up there, buddy?
So, what's going on, everybody? What's up?
And like we do sometimes about this time, we'd like to spice it up a little bit, so we had to get a little bit of Christmas holidays up in here.
Yeah, maybe we're getting better at dropping music into the show. So if you have any requests, make sure to reach out to us on some of the social media accounts that we're about to drop.
What is this? The Comic Book Chronicles music show now? We're gonna have our own TRL or something.
Right.
Oh gosh, that's terrible. Yeah, I guess you could kind of. Well, there's not that whole lot of like comic or cartoon based music out there, but you could do kind of like a show or two or something. You can mix up some stuff.
Sure.
But in the meantime, while we try to get that sorted out, I guess. So yes, it is the last week of the New Year's, and before we get into that, I guess let me go ahead and take care of these little particulars since I've already introduced the hosts. Like I said, this is the CBC. This is the Comic Book Chronicles podcast. You can find us anywhere you can find podcasts everywhere. That's Apple, iTunes, whatever, Google Play, Stitcher, all those fine places. You can find us there. You can also find us at cspn.us, along with other fine programming of the podcast sort. There's a lot over there that you can go snack on and chew in your ears and all that kind of good mess. But you can also find us individually, going back to second Agent 7. You can find him at Twitter and Instagram on Agent _70. Tim Dog 98 on Twitter. You can also find him at the KLIQ Nation on Twitter and CB Cron on Twitter. You can also find PCN_Dirt on Twitter at PCN_Dirt. You can also find him at Pop Culture Net on Twitter. I don't think he's doing comic reviews anymore on Instagram. So,
no, but I think I'm still looking for a good outlet for that type of content.
Yep, Rep Vine. But also, last but not least, you can find me on Twitter at RowdyCats. You can also find me at NewsNewsNeed on Twitter. You can also find me on the gram at CBCaps or RowdyCat if you want to, but I don't really post. whole lot over there. So, but you could also go to shop.cspn.us and buy some merch from over there. Get some nice comic book Chronicles swag or swag from other CSPN podcast folks. Get you some nice swag. Help us, help you, help us, help us, help you, help us, help them, help us. Yes, all that.
All righty.
With that, we are going to go in. Like I said, this is the last week of the year. This year of our Lord Have Mercy 2017. Lord Have Mercy. Second, that was another song I'm gonna put in. I was about to do something I shouldn't do with my voice is the way it is, but Agent 70 and I are going to recount this week's books. And for the end of the year, it wasn't really a whole lot to write about, but you know what? We're gonna do the thing like we've been doing. So what you want to start off with, sir?
I'm going to start out with the first book I put on my list because, like it or not, there have been a couple of name titles that dropped this week, and the first one that I wanted to talk about is Doomsday Clock #2. Now, it's not all, to be honest, I've heard conflicting reviews of this limited series up to this point. It's stretched the gamut from this is blasphemy to at least this is something where we've kind of been curious about ever since Watchmen ended, and we've all been kind of reading it in constant reprints ever since, because the curiosity is always there. So what happens next? So in this issue, we have the two new characters kind of taking front and center stage. The two new characters that were introduced in Doomsday Clock #1. I'm speaking of Marionette and Mime, and these two characters are basically holding up a bank, and it's a part of a deeper story, and it's my understanding is that this was sort of told in flashback, but I could be, this may be better explained in issues to come. Pardon me, but that may have been a flashback story meant to show their encounter with one Dr. Manhattan. We are brought back into the quote-unquote present, and we're teased as to Ozymandias's plan when it comes to finding Dr. Manhattan in the DC universe proper, and basically the crux of the story in the DC universe is that Ozymandias has determined who the two smartest people are on the DC universe Earth, and he has dispatched himself and Rorschach to speak to these smart people. You can kind of figure out who they are if you're even vaguely familiar with DC, with the DC Earth, and who resides on the DC Earth. Who Ozymandias would want to reach out to and try to explain what the situation is with Dr. Manhattan. So that's the crux of the story, not spoiling too much because there are a couple of reveals in this. We're still in the building stage of the story. This is a 12-issue series, so issue 2 is still leaving a lot of meat on the bone for Jeff Johns and Gary Frank to kind of tell their story. So we're still maybe ankle deep in the story right now. We're still wading into the deep end of the pool. So I'm sort of in the middle. I'm not the biggest Watchmen fan in the world, so I don't mind seeing an update to the story and seeing what comes next, a la President Bartlett.
What's next?
Even President Bartlett wants to know what's next. So I understand, why there's a drive to continue the story and tie it into the DC universe, the greater DC universe. So that is this issue, and it was okay. You're still in the early stages of the story, and you can still find Doomsday Clock #1 at your local comic shop. So if you're looking to get into this, it may, at this point, it's still hard to say whether or not it's really worth it. But if you're curious, it's still a good time to jump in. That's what I have to say about Doomsday Clock #2.
And that's all I got to say about that.
Right.
Understood. Okay. Well, sorry. This throat clearing is going to be a thing tonight, folks. So please bear with me.
Yeah. I'll do my best to help, kind of spare the voice a little tonight. So
yeah, like the voice is all right. It's just for some strange reason, it just wants to act up. Like it's not like I'm in a bad way. It's just
gotcha.
But then again, it did just come from out. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Let us get to you know what? Let's get to a book that we both read. How about? And that is Black Panther #168.
There you go.
So we can go ahead and run that one out. The Jewel style. Not a whole lot happened. Well, I was gonna say
plane crash, and there was a plane crash.
Not a whole lot happened, but actually there was a couple of good side things that did happen. So you see in the beginning, Queen Ramonda talking to I can't remember who the lady was, but she is also. But I do remember she's the lady that's been helping the Midnight Angels, Ayo and Anika out because they saved her. And I think they were in Jabari, not in the Jabarian lands, but near. I might be getting that confused. But regardless,
wasn't she one of the characters that they saved from the rebels?
Yes.
That's how it's tied in.
Mm-hmm. And the Midnight Angels had been captured, if I'm not mistaken, by clawing them or whoever, or staining them, I believe it was, who captured them. So this lady is like, well, we need to mount a rescue or something. And Ramonda's like, well, we can't really just do that. And, they have a back and forth, and which ends up with Ramonda saying, hey, look, this is not a monarchy anymore. This is in the hands of the democracy that you guys wanted. So, it is what it is on point.
Right. It's kind of funny that like there's a little bit of there's a little bit of a commentary, social commentary on the nature of democracy and how slowly the wheels of bureaucracy spins.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost reminiscent of I've been watching. I mentioned on the show I've been watching Clone Wars, and I just wrapped it.
Jeez,
the 6 seasons.
And we haven't talked about that. Well, granted, I mean, you could do it in a week, but you chopped that one.
I know, yeah, I did it in the span of like 2+ weeks. But like I said, with no sports to watch and holiday time to kill off, to avoid family, I was watching Clone Wars.
But you know what? Hey, not a bad show to binge watch.
Exactly. And
I'm curious of your thoughts on that, but we can talk about that a little later.
Exactly. But at the end of the day, the reason why I bring that up is that there's lots of criticism of how the Galactic Senate would operate and how slowly it would move because of the democracy or the pseudo democracy that they're operating under. So that being said, that it's funny to read that. Being kind of that note being dropped in the midst of this story, like, hey, we can't move like we used to because we have this democracy now.
Mm-hmm. The democracy that you guys wanted.
Exactly.
So, but yeah, that is rather amusing. But who said that the comics weren't political at some point?
Exactly.
Well, that's who. But to continue the story, so that's one side of it, and then there's that little sort of tete-a-tete. And on the other side of it, we have T'Challa. I'm starting to mix the other Black Panther story that I also read. But Thunderball is still looking into the claw situation for T'Challa. They found out some interesting things about the Reverberium and how he got to do the stuff that that Claw's been doing with it. Right. And then this is when, right after then is when the plane crash or the helicopter crash happens.
Mm-hmm.
as they are going to. Actually, I can't remember where they were going, and I know I read this earlier today, but they were going somewhere, and the plane crash happened, which started off a big fight. Which one other cool thing about it is that oh yeah, there's also the thing with the old gods, which apparently we found out that while Claw has something to do with the some of the manifestations that have been coming around, it's not all him, as we found out last issue, from other stuff, so I won't recount that. But he hasn't been doing all of it. But anyway, like I said, plane crash, fight happens, Thunderball gets his a little bit, actually, which was also a good cool thing. He's fighting on the side of right, I guess you could say, or fighting for his life.
Yeah, exactly, for now.
Yeah. Well, I mean, hopefully it sticks up and he doesn't go back to bad. But obviously, they don't still trust him. But he's regardless. So that's pretty much the length of this book. Because the only other thing that happens is that we going back to the beginning of the book. Ramonda ends up going to where the other lady was and be like, "Hey, look, T'Challa's 5 steps ahead of enemies and 3 steps ahead of his friends and whatnot." And she brings what looks like to be a bunch of other Midnight Angels,
suits,
armor,
yeah,
suited folks with her. So clearly, there's some stuff that's gonna,
right.
They are going to be doing some stuff in this issue,
right?
Because
appear to be
like an attack on what's that?
Yeah, no, I was about to say the suits are empty to allow the other whatchamacallit, either the renegade Dormelage to suit up.
Right. So they're definitely mounting a multi-tiered attack, as Ramonda says near the end of the books. And so she was like, "Look, T'Challa sees this before anybody else, so he's got this covered." And so we'll see how that's going to play out next issue, I guess, or in the next couple of issues.
Right, multiple fronts. That's that's the battle that T'Challa is going to be fighting. All right, So that's the lone. Believe it or not, that's the lone book that Roddy Cat and I read this week. That we both read this week. So what I'm going to do is, it seems that Tim Dog and I read a lot of books in common. So I'm going to bounce to those books that Tim Dog and I read, and kind of go through my own notes and his notes very quickly. So one of the books that Tim Dog and I read, and I mentioned earlier, there are a couple of kind of like big name titles that dropped this weekend. Another one of them was Spider-Man 2 #5, the miniseries by Brian Bendis, with art by Sarah Pichelli, that details the second story between the former Ultimate Universe Spider-Man and Miles Morales and Peter Parker, whereas the first time it was kind of novel for them to be teaming up, nowadays it's kind of old hat.
Yeah.
But it does play on a couple of themes from the first one. And I guess the big reveal in this issue is, spoiler alert, the 616 Miles Morales basically uses the teleportation technology that that has kind of been playing a role in this both miniseries, to make his way to the Ultimate Universe, where his version of Miles's girlfriend exists. And where there's this Barbara, I forget her last name, but the 616 Miles finds a more compatible version of Barbara out there in the multiverse, and that's where he makes it. That's where he heads to. The other thing that Tim notes, and is kind of, I guess, leading from this story into some of the stories in the Miles Spider-Man title proper, which is whether or not Miles is going to continue being Spider-Man, or whether or not he's going to take on another another code name if he even continues heroing. So we all know he's going to continue to be a superhero. This is just another bump in the road in his ongoing story. But you know, at the end of the day, I honestly found myself thinking after I read this book, like, why did I waste my time reading this? Let's be honest, you know. So I don't have very good feelings about this. I don't know. You know, I'd like to hear what Tim Dog 98 had to say, but that'll have to wait for a couple of weeks, or we may have to just hit him up on Twitter.
Mm. I think I've asked this before, maybe the last time we talked about this, or yeah, when we talked about this miniseries. Was the last one any more compelling? Did you read the last one? The first
but
Spider-Man?
it was more compelling, and yet they both suffer from the same downside, which is the endings leave so much to be desired because there's no closure. Obviously, there's no closure because that's not what it's meant to be. But you know, this particular miniseries didn't really do all that much for me.
It kind of did something, but it didn't really do anything.
Yeah.
That's a bummer, but I guess that's probably why I didn't see. Yeah, see, my thing was I was going to read the first one. Excuse me, read the first one first because I never did it when it originally happened, and partially had to do with the fact that hey, there were not going to be any Ultimate / 616 crossovers, and yet that ended up happening. But I don't know.
Yeah, but then Secret Wars happened, so you know.
Well, no, but I'm saying earlier before, but yeah, but by the time Secret Wars happened, all the floodgates were open anyway, so it kind of didn't really matter.
Right.
But yeah, I don't know. It's weird, and I was moderately curious about this one, but not enough to because there was a question. So here it goes as a question. We may have already asked this also. So this Miles in the 616, you already said there's some teleportation. So is this person like any significant?
Somewhat through a good old fashioned retcon.
Sure. Because that was the
significance through a good old fashioned retcon. And when you finally sit down to read it, you'll see it and you'll laugh and be like, yeah, that's a classic retcon.
Mm-hmm. So. Yeah, that was the thing, because I was like, well, okay, yeah, if there was an Ultimate side of Miles, and clearly there was a 616 side, and I was curious if that person was going to be of any significance, and it sounds like, yeah, okay, sure. Okay, well, let's move on.
What do you got?
Well, I guess I can get to the other Black Panther book that I read, since we're on that train, kind of, sort of. And that would be Black Panther, Long Live the King, #2. That is, or this is a Comixology original. Excuse me. So if you did not know, Comixology for the last couple of months, they've been putting out books from Marvel and other people, but Marvel finally joined them, and they're putting out digital books that are going to be later collected and put out print wise. This happens to be one of them. The other one I've talked about before was the Iron Fists book that I talked about like a couple of months ago, I think. Anyway, I would go so far as to say that you know, if you are a fan of Black Panther, I would say seek this out. This is a little bit different than what is going on in the book we just talked about. And actually, I need to write that down real quick because I just thought about that. I have to write down these books while I'm doing this, so bear with me. But yeah, so this is, I can't remember if this was like a quote unquote Elseworld story, or this is something from like early. I think this is like an Elseworld story, if I remember correctly. Because there's that other Black Panther book that is coming out that is the early days of, that's going to be the early days of T'Challa. So, but this is regardless, this is just a side tale. So as of last issue, something happened to the vibranium. T'Challa saw this monster. His suit doesn't work because of this monster showing up that was messing with the vibranium, burning Zana, which is like the main, which I guess is like the capital. had earthquakes and power outages because of that. So they spent last issue trying to figure out how to deal with that. So in this issue now, T'Challa and a couple of his elite guards are going to this one zone to see, called the Mute Zone, to find out if anything happened there, because that seems to be where things are pointing. So in this Mute Zone, they've kind of closed themselves off from the Kimoyo and therefore Wakanda proper. So, you know, they're not linked by the internet, basically. So, you know, during the course of their travel, they have to stop because, like I said, because of this place is not connected to the rest of Wakanda. They can't go too much farther because, like I said, their instruments or nothing in whatever can't are not connected, so they don't have a way to kind of fly through. So they have to get out and walk. And on their journey, they've run into a couple of issues. One of which happens to be this panther who looks to be possessed, attacks T'Challa and almost kind of has his way with him. But T'Challa deals with him, and then after that, they find their way into town and meet up with the chief of this town, who it seems that T'Challa knows some kind of way. This person is not familiar to me, so I'm not sure if I know this person, but it is someone familiar to that T'Challa definitely has some dealings with. And this person also says something about the panther that was just attacking the T'Challa, and says something about it being possessed and being a warning to kill him. So something else is going on here, but we don't know fully what yet. Like I said, it's I believe this is a 5-issue miniseries. So we're going to get down to starting to get down to the bottom of what's going on, and or who's even, like, we don't even know who is even the big bad, or what's just, like I said, we know some stuff happened, and T'Challa's on trying to figure out what's going on with it, and which leads him to where he is now. So far, like I said, it hasn't been a bad read. Which is why I say, you know, if you're a fan of Black Panther, this is another story for people to check out. And like I said, because of the way that it's being put out, I tend to suggest that people kind of seek some of the stuff out, because like this is not like Marvel's not like promoting this, which is a flaw on their part on in many ways. But we'll get to that, you know, probably later on down the line. So, like I said, if this is another seemingly intriguing story, it's worth noting that it's being written by Dr. Nnedi Okorafor. I believe I said that last week. Who has done? This is her first stuff for Marvel, but she's written many books, and she's seemingly an interesting person of note, science fiction writer. So, if you are on the Twitters and you follow enough people, you know who I'm talking about. So, yeah, right. It's kind of interesting.
Okay, so I guess to finish off the triumvirate of kind of big name titles that dropped this week, I'm going to talk about the full title of this is Phoenix Resurrection: The Return of Jean Grey #1. Both Tim and I read this. It's kind of funny if you're familiar with Jean Grey's origin. We dive right into this. This is Matthew Rosenberg doing the script on this with Lionel Yu on art. And if you're familiar with Jean Grey's origin, we basically drop right in on one of the big events of her origin story when she's very young and her mutant powers are emerging, which is supposed to be the signal, the trigger of the Phoenix Force's recognition of Jean Grey as being a potential host for the Phoenix Force. So we open with these Phoenix-related shenanigans in the little town of Annandale on Hudson in New York State. And if there's one thing that catches your eye right away, is that you have to figure out how to read backwards quickly. You realize that something is written backwards, and once you figure that out, the story kind of goes from there.
Wait, manga style, or you're saying just like
no, just the words, not quite Pig Latin.
Here.
Yeah. Reading words, reading the script, reading what's being said, that's being said backwards. Once you figure that out, you can get what the general conceit of the story is, and then move forward from there. There's several parts of recent X-Men events that are showing up in this. Marvel's done a decent job of building up some of the suspense and the anticipation of this event by having some of the related characters being affected coming into this. Specifically, I'm referring to Rachel Gray. I forget the new crazy code name that they've given her going into this, but she is feeling the effects of the Phoenix shenanigans on Earth. So we'll see how she's affected in going forward. The X-Men are basically sent to investigate this, or they basically catch wind of it through Cerebro, that the Phoenix shenanigans are going on, and they dispatch teams around the Earth to investigate some more Phoenix shenanigans. And we find ourselves in some very familiar locales. Again, if you're familiar with Jean Grey's story in the Marvel Comics, some of these are very, very, very familiar. So, there's a common thread in the threats that the X-Men encounter at all of these points of these locations, and that is characters who were formerly dead are alive again. And whether or not that is permanent going forward, we'll see. A lot of it is meant to be interpreted as a projection of the Phoenix's psychic abilities and Jean Grey's psychic abilities. So we'll see how that goes from here. There is a pretty interesting cliffhanger, although you could see it coming from a mile away. And ultimately, this story is, like I said, this is definitely drawing on a lot of the events, a lot of little pieces of buildup that Marvel has woven into the X books to get to this point of returning Jean Grey to the Marvel Universe. So it's nice to see some of that buildup pay off. Ultimately, if you are interested in the X books, this is something you should pick up, because this definitely hits on a lot of notes that are familiar, but at the same time, we'll see how Rosenberg kind of brings it into the present and finds a way to bring Jean Grey back into the fold. So it's not a bad first issue, especially for something where the idea, the title of the book kind of spoils the entire idea behind the story. So it's just about the journey at this point and the execution of the story. So we'll see how it goes, but not a bad read for the beginning of this limited series.
I see. Okay. Well, excuse me. In that case, since Matthew Rosenberg actually has another book that he penned this week. Did you happen to read Secret Warriors?
I did not. I have fallen off this book for a while. I guess during Secret Empire, I kind of lost track of it, so I need to catch up on it. I know that it is ending, I believe, with this issue or with the next issue.
Not with this. I don't think with this issue.
But soon.
I think from accounts, and actually, let me while I try to find the cover here. We're not entirely sure if it's canceled or it's going to be on hiatus. There's a couple of conflicting reports on that. Okay. Yeah, so I don't know, but there is definitely to be a continued at the end of this book. So we know this is not it would be the next one. But what happens in this one, it definitely wraps up relatively clean, though, because It starts off with at the end of last issue where Inferno basically took a piece of the Inhuman throne, which coincidentally has some Terrigen crystal in it for some weird reason. He took it to Mr. Sinister in exchange for his niece. Well, for exchange for himself and his niece, so that he can get his niece back to his sister, and whatever else Sinister needs a Terrigen crystal for, because he was supposed to be trying to find an alternative way of Terrigenesis with the help of Karnak, and of course Karnak is like a running point through here because of the dealings early on. The rest of the team went after him after a little kerfuffle with the humans. They catch up with Sinister. He and Karnak have words. Something happens. Sinister may or may not be dead, but the team won the battle. Sinister's been foiled. Inferno is, because of what he did, is no longer is banished from the Inhumans. Karnak's like, hey, we need a new leader, and and for some strange reason he said he he wants Moon Girl, aka Lunella Lafayette, to be the new leader of the Inhumans. And she's like, what?
Artist.
Well, yeah, that wasn't necessarily his reasoning, but that was part of it. I think he has some weird attachment to her also, which is played out during the course of this whole series. But that ends up not happening per se, or does it? But like I said, Inferno gets banished, and I think the last we saw is Karnak and like Daisy Johnson having words with each other and them parting ways because of all the craziness that's been going on with him and whatnot. So yeah, that's that for this one. We will see what's in store, whether this book's gonna keep going or it's about to close out.
Alrighty.
It's been a fun book though. I've definitely been enjoying the dynamic of the folks on the team, like this Karnak stuff aside, but it's been cool.
I gotcha. Alrighty. Quickly, another book that Tim Dog and I read this week was Invincible Iron Man number 595. Spoiler bell. Spoiler bell.
I've been spoiled about what happened to it.
Right. Like we kind of know, like I said, like Roddy said, we kind of know what's going on in this. We kind of know who the bald guy is because it's the whole point of the story. I call it Tony Stark Reborn.
No more awesome facial hair bros.
Exactly. And there's some immediate references to that too. But we're not 100% sure this is actually happening, because what it seems like is happening is that, as a result of this reboot to Tony Stark's body, he may not have experienced any of these particular interactions that we see, in the issue. Although, as Roddy Cap pointed out, the reboot has also caused him to not have any facial hair, so no more, facial hair bros, at least for a little while.
I'm mad. It looks like Bendis.
Yeah,
bald, but
Right. And there's an additional story that Tim Dog reminds me of in his notes. Victor Von Doom may actually become, spoiler alert,
baby daddy.
Yeah.
Which, if the numbering of actually, I need to put that in here. If the numbering and people of a certain vintage would know that the numbering going back to the legacy is 595. I'm only pointing that out because 600 issues coming up, and said 600 issues probably going to be a big blowout thing. And I can't remember the last time it's happened, but usually, especially since like Dr. Doom has been involved kind of heavily, usually ends up having to do with Dr. Doom. Like that's been a running thing with Iron Man over the years. It's like every 50 to 100 books, that ends up happening. And I think this one is actually it's been said that that's going to happen. So for whatever reason, so we'll know what that goes on. And sometimes those have been enjoyable, and which is the other reason why I'm saying that.
Okay.
No.
Alrighty. All right. So that's Invincible. Iron Man, what do you got?
I also have well, okay, sure. There's a theme going on here, I guess. Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur number 26. While I pull that up, we have. Oh, I cut off the top of that, but that's fine. Doesn't really matter. So Galactus, the Lifebringer, has shown up on Earth on Yancey Street, along with the Civil Server. Just coincidentally, not so coincidentally, that Ben Grimm and the Human Torch are also there talking to Lunella. The crux of this story, real briefly, is basically someone called Omnipotus has been called forth, and Galactus came personally to see if it was Lunella that brought them forth. Omnipotus is a person like himself and suffered with cosmic power who feeds off of cosmic power. Like he's kind of one of those in-betweener type cosmic entities, like Galactus used to be, or is actually still, but he just doesn't feed off of worlds like he used to. Whereas this Omnipotus person, whoever this is, does feed off of energies and unimaginable. So pretty much the crux of the story is them talking about that, but there's also this other side story where somebody's been going around, or at least last issue, with the powers of the Fantastic Four, the original Fantastic Four, and I don't even know why I had to clarify it like that. But and the reason why I bring it up in this issue is because the Thing ends up at the end of the story getting hauled off by the police for one of the strings of burglaries that, or one of the robberies or whatever happens by this one of the people that is doing this. And also because he also got attacked by, looks like two other people with these Fantastic Four like powers, and we have not yet seen these people fully yet. We just seen the powers being used and this and the other. So that's another storyline that's kind of going through here. And sad thing in this is that while we see Herbie on the cover of this book, he does not show up in the story. I'm sorry.
Oh, hold on.
Unless you had to play it twice, huh?
Exactly. So, all right. So we're getting down to the nitty gritty in our reviews for this week. Let's see, what else do Tim and I have in common? We have a bunch this week. So, Amazing Spider-Man number 790. I'm going to rapid fire a couple of these real quick. Amazing Spider-Man number 793. My notes say that it's basically more Venom. The Venom crossover stuff is going on. This part of the stories actually seems to have some. The story arc seems to be inspired by some of the circumstances in The Godfather, the first movie. So it's kind of interesting. There's some. 5 family stuff going on in this. 5 crime family stuff going on.
It shows up.
What's that?
Fredo shows up.
No Fredo. There's but there's definitely a whole 5 family bit. There isn't a traitor. There isn't someone trying to take over the Corleone empire. But there's definitely a 5 family vibe and a big meeting vibe to it. So that's straight out of the first Godfather. And Tim's notes were basically, he didn't have that much to talk about. Those were the things that jumped out at me. Another book that we both read was Hawkman Found #1. Jumping over to DC, this is related to the Dark Knight's Metal stuff. Tim found this book easy to read and follow because of the way the story was laid out. Honestly, my take on this was it may have been easy to read and follow. I'm just not a fan of the direction that they're taking Carter Hall, also known as Hawkman, because they just can't figure out what to do with this character. They don't know if they want to make him a galactic policeman. They don't know if they want to make him the ancient Egyptian who's been in love with Kendra Saunders, over millions of years and various lifetimes, and they're immortal and so on and so forth. They just don't know what to do with them. So
that's be confusing me about that, because it was like there was the whole him and Shiera thing, and then there's the whole Kendra thing, and then it was like you said, the intergalactic cop was like, well, we already got lanterns, and then there's the whole Egyptian thing. And it's like, you're right. I had that same. I mean, I haven't read this, but I'm like, there's just poor Hawkman just never really catches a break because they don't know what to do with him.
They really don't know what to do with them, and this is just the latest in the string of reincarnations of the character and reimaginings of the character. So, we'll see if this sticks for a little while. The art is actually by Brian Hitch, so it is pretty nice to look at. Luckily, he's not writing it, so
and luckily it's only a miniseries.
Exactly. So hopefully it comes out on time. But it was okay. Let's see what else Tim and I read real quick in rapid fire. I think we might have hit our last book, which is Thanos #14. And I'll give this a couple of extra seconds beyond regular rapid fire, because it seems like Tim and I had the same feelings about this book, which is that this is probably one of the best books that we read this week. In a week of, kind of bigger event books, this issue of Thanos, and I know that I've made Thanos, a recent issue of Thanos, my own click of the week as well. Right? Was it the last one?
Mm-hmm.
So, because I remember looking at our summary of clicks of the week, and I remember seeing this coming up relatively recently. So the latest storyline in this deals with the future Thanos calling on the current day Thanos to help him out with the problem, and there's a new incarnation of Ghost Rider to deal with. But in this issue, we get a lot of background story on Thanos that a lot of people may or may not be familiar with. There is some there's some gaps kind of filled in, some retcons that kind of make sense when it comes to Thanos's origin, and his and things happening on the day of his birth. But I have to say that in terms of establishing how ruthless Thanos can be, and also what would happen if Thanos actually won his war against the forces of good, and eventually made nice with the spirit, the incarnation of death in the Marvel universe. It's nice to see that there is still more to that story, because he needs the future Thanos needs the current day Thanos' help because of something that's pretty dramatic in the future Thanos' life. So that's our cliffhanger. We find out why the future Thanos has called on his younger self for help, and we'll go from there. It was actually a pretty interesting read. This book is, this should be easy to find. Your local comic book shop may not have ordered too many. There probably aren't that many people pulling this book, but you should be. It's pretty good. So get out there, give this a read. Try the last issue first before getting to this one. I believe that will help you kind of pick up on what the issue, what the story is here. But even if you just pick this up, you should be able to fill yourself in pretty quickly on what you need to know. It's pretty good. It's a definite click of the week candidate for me, and it is as well for Tim Dog 98. You want me to just do his last books?
Go for it.
All right. X-Men Blue #18. Time traveling X-Men meet Generation X. Degeneration. No, sorry. And new things are learned about how the original X-Men eventually become tyrants and despots in an altered timeline. And finally, for Tim's books. Teen Titans number 15. Future Tim Drake now has a new name. I'm not going to spoil it. It's kind of sacrilegious. And no, I'm kidding. But it does have that kind of tint to it. So there's that. And I think that covers both my books and Tim Dog 98's books.
Solid. And I just remember something that I should have done like a while ago that I normally would have done by now, but that's okay. We're gonna roll it. Let's see. So I only have a couple of books left, and let's see if I can pull this one up real quick. Catalyst Prime Kino number 2. As I'm juggling things, I thought I was gonna have a nice little order out of the way, but that didn't work. We didn't talk about the first issue, but so I'll just briefly say that. So Kino is one of the astronauts that was on the ill-fated mission to save the Earth because he didn't want to miss a thing.
Save the Earth. I'm sorry. That's a deep cut to Godzilla versus the Smog Monster. But anyway,
nice. So just like the other astronauts, he survived, but he doesn't know that the other ones are alive. They don't know he's alive, and you know that's been the one crux. The one other tie of all these books. He gets powers also, just like the other ones did, but his powers are a little different. Now, the difference between he and the other ones, outside of Summit, which I talked about last week, he has been held. Well, he was up until last issue held by Foresight and one Lorena Payne, who's the big, who funded the whole mission in the first place, and was also kind of the big bad of the world, or if you want to call it the big bad. We still don't know her full, but she's basically the one that caused the whole thing, But Kino is Major Alistair Meath. He, like I said, was being held seemingly unconscious by Foresight until last issue, where they were so he was with Foresight. This one dude with seemingly SIS, British Intelligence Agency, came to talk to her, but it was a smokescreen to try to get his body back because he is British. And that mission did not go as planned because they got attacked by some other party who ends up getting his body, who is also using, mind you, he's not dead, but he's like in some sort of stasis or something. And the people who have him now have been implanting memories of, let's say, Golden Age heroism. And then I think, oh no, it is up. So within his body, within his mind. So half of it's like what's going on in the real world, and then the end of the book is like his adventures in his brain that are being implanted within him for some odd reason that we still don't know about by this person. We still don't know that much more about. And coming into this issue, we still get more of that. So Lorena Payne's got some other specimens that she's moving now that his body's been taken, and she doesn't want the rest of them being taken. This one SIS agent who's trying, because of his mission being failed and he got injured, and he's kind of one of those, he takes it real hard, so he's trying to finish the mission and get Major Meath's body back. But first he's got to talk to his family, talk to the family of the Major, and get some leads as to where the body might be. So that's going on, and then we go back to the other side where, like I said, Kino is being implanted with memories, but this time the person decides to change the script up, and at the end of the issue, it seems that he may be causing some brain damage or causing some mental breakage within the character. And my first thought when I got to my first thought when I saw this in the last issue, when I read it, I'm like, please don't let this be Sentry. Please don't let this be Sentry. We already have a Sentry. And I feel bad about saying that because it has nothing to do with the Marvel Universe. And since we have talked about Century,
yeah, Century has become relevant again very recently.
Yeah, sadly, but but his powers are not necessarily that. Like, yeah, he's strong, but he's got like kinetic based powers. Hence his name Kino, and that's the. So we don't know. So at the end of this issue, all we know is that the guy who's holding him may have pushed his brain's limit, and we might see him breaking out on his own. To what extent? In the next issue coming forward, this I can safely say that while this is tied in with the other Catalyst Prime stuff. Like they've been doing different things with some of these books. Like Superb's been kind of different because that's kind of ground level. Excel's been kind of off on its own, having nothing to do with foresight and anything that's going on in the big picture. But like Noble, Summit, Noble and Summit definitely, and kind of sort of this has been tied to the bigger to the bigger issue. Like Catalyst Prime's got like 6 books at this point, including Astonisher, which I need to catch up on. But like I said, they've been kind of doing something different. This one's kind of not roughly. This one's kind of tied to the main stuff, but it is still kind of loose on its own because we still don't know what's going to go on with this character yet. And Summit just started last week. But like I said, if you want something a little different, but still in the superhero vein and in a universe that's, if you've been around for a minute, might be slightly familiar, but definitely different, you may want to check these books out.
Alrighty.
Let's see. What do I have next? I think I don't have but one on the 2. Yeah, I can do 2 real quick. Star Wars Adventures number 5. So this is this is the all ages book in Star Wars universe, and I need to write this down real quick. Sorry. The first story is the second part of. Let's see. They were Luke and Leia were somewhere on some planet on a diplomatic mission. A droid. Well, it was a diplomatic mission, but also something for the rebellion that they're trying to do. But the Empire was there and caught wind of the fact that Luke blew up the Death Star, so they went at him. He got caught. As I said in my notes, he got caught because of a humble brag that he did not initiate. So he ended up getting caught in the last issue, which prompts Leia to spring him in this issue, and they cause a little havoc for the Empire. And there is that. And the backup story to this one, Porgs. That's all you need to know. Porgs. And guess what? I just found out because of that. You want to know what a group of Porgs are?
Go ahead.
A murder of Porgs.
Aye.
Oh, yes. That is what.
Nerd alert!
Nothing original under the sun. And let's see. Next book, and I believe my last. Let me make sure that's the case. Yes. And also rounds out the Star Wars corner, which I kind of skimmed through this. But it is Star Wars, the Star Wars, The Last Jedi, The Storms of Crate. Actually, I don't know if the Last Jedi part is in there, but we're gonna.
No, that's the Mace Windu one.
Oh, it's not. Oh no! That one's not. The Mace Windu one is the Clone Wars one.
No, but it doesn't say Last Jedi or something.
This one does. I don't think the Mace Windu one does. I can check that actually real quick.
I thought it did.
No, it says Jedi of the Republic.
Oh, okay, never mind.
Yeah, which I skimmed through that one, but I didn't get a chance to read it fully. But I know I will say real quick that one is the end of that book, and from what I skimmed through it ends up that says there's a big monologue at the end and some flashbacks to stuff that we saw happen during the Clone Wars movies.
Gotcha.
But yeah, but in this case, I don't know if I should put that down. Not I've said much about it. We're gonna roll. The crux of this one is this is like early on. This is definitely past A New Hope. So this is early Luke and the crew, Luke and Leia and the crew. So they're looking for a new place to hide out from the Empire because they're I don't know if they can't remember if they were run out of places and whatnot. But they end up on Crate, which Luke knows to be a place that doesn't have much going forward. But they end up getting into some trouble in the form of some little critters. And guess what, the folks? Scar Squadron, who, if you've watched or who if you've been reading the Star Wars proper book, has been a pain in the sides of our little ragtag rebellion crew off and on for some time, and this time is no different. But yes, like I said, we find them kind of scouting out Crate, and if you've seen Last Jedi, obviously that name means something because they end up there for coincidentally that reason for reasons. And now you start to know how they found out about Crate because it's from this book. And of course, our crew can't help but forget themselves into any trouble. So there you go.
All righty.
And I believe that will do it for me.
All righty, and we covered Tim's and my own book. So without further ado, we're going to get to Clicks of the Week. All right. I think Tim and I are in agreement on our Clicks of the Week, or on our Click of the Week, because it's going to be the same book, Thanos number 14.
Huh. Interesting.
Yeah, it's funny. Of all the big name titles that dropped this week, I think that was that was the best read.
Pardon, excuse me. Y'all are silly. Well, for me, I think I might go with. Yeah, I don't know. It was like that's the Storms of Crate one seemed like it is kind of cool, but I also kind of skimmed it to like I read enough to get the sense of it, but it's like, well, okay, I get where this is going. And I saw what was going on in it. But I may just go for Black Panther number 168. I believe. Unless you want a murder of porgs.
Murder of porgs,
which I know our very own Matt Wang, just I'm sure adores to no end. Actually, looking at him, I almost read Moon Knight that came out this week.
Uh-oh. Sorry. Good.
You're good. Almost read Moon Knight this week because wasn't it he that was talking about? No, he was talking about not Sun King.
Yeah, Sun King. Yeah.
And the Sun King, although I did a little research on that, and I'm like, I don't see, there was no reference to Sun King with the exception of something from Next Wave, which I barely remember that. So I thought that was a kick. I was like, let me catch up on this to see what's this. So it sounds like Sun King in Moon Knight is a threat.
Yeah, or at least, yeah. This character who has heat-based powers. Yeah, I skimmed this book. I wanted to give it more time because there is a little bit more to it than I had time to give it. So I did have it. It's on the top of my reading pile. Like I literally have my physical pile here in front of me. So if I have a chance to read it physically or just peruse it digitally, it'll be the first thing to get done this weekend. Alrighty. So in the meantime, while we get our news ready, I'm going to read our first ad of the night.
Take it slow.
And well, you know what? In the meantime, while I pull it up, there is, of course, the little bit of music that I dropped earlier that I think people would kind of get a kick out of hearing. It's a deep cut. And shout out to all those people who understand, even the Japanese who understood that global warming was a real thing and climate change was a real thing, because that was the whole point of Godzilla versus the Smog Monster / Godzilla versus Ghidorah.
Save the earth. Be the evil
solutions, stop pollution, save the earth. Save the earth.
It's right there in the song, people. So let me pull up this week's ad. You know what I'm saying? Like, we were taught at a very young age, guess what? Pollution is bad, you know?
But luckily we haven't had any giant monsters yet, except for the one we call President.
Yes. So our first ad of the week is for Amazon. Help keep our podcast free by shopping at Amazon. Visit cspn.us, then click the Keep Our Podcast Free link at the top of the page. From there, scroll down and click on the Amazon link to shop. If you've got late Christmas gifts to get, or you're trying to scramble to cover that person you happen to forget on your Christmas list, hit up amazon.com through cspn.us. For every purchase made on Amazon through our link, Amazon sends the CSPN a payment that helps us keep the Click Nation's Comic Book Chronicles podcast free for our listeners at no extra cost to you. Amazon.com through cspn.us. Do it today. And now we're ready. The news.
Yeah, luckily we didn't have a whole lot of news this week. And partially because
we're in between holidays.
That too, and I didn't really pull a whole lot except for the last day or two, so it's all good. Although I see something here I want to bring up, I might just do that just for whatever. Oops, I didn't mean to do it, but we will start off with this one. And that is, before you play, Ava DuVernay, who's a awesome Twitter person and director of some fine feature films. Says Big Barda is her favorite superhero for reasons, which, we're fans of Big Barda around here. So
sure. I mean, she's definitely a fan of the more obscure heroes if Big Barda is her favorite.
Yeah. Yeah, she was asked, it's like on a Twitter Q&A, and she was like, yeah, as you can see on, actually, you can't see because I don't have it up here just yet. That's all. Pow. As you can see here, it's, Big Barda for many reasons. So just like we said last week, find your Big Barda, ride or die. So, but that's cool though. There's some speculation. It's like, well, she could, obviously, as articles tend to do, it's like, hey, maybe we can get her to do a Big Barda movie or something. I don't know. Stay tuned for that. But that's pretty cool, regardless. And I just thought about it because for a lot of people, well, for some people, Justice League was kind of their kind of big push into some of these characters, especially some of the New Gods stuff.
Oh, sure. Well, I mean, that and Superman Adventures, I think, had some New God stuff in it too.
You're right. I need to go back and watch that again because I never did finish that series.
Right. There's a generation that's roughly maybe a little bit younger than myself and at Roddy Cat, or roughly our generation who found the time to catch these shows. That if you weren't familiar with the New Gods before, that was your introduction to them.
Mm-hmm.
So
actually, and even if you're like me who didn't really read a whole lot of DC / New God stuff, for me, I'm just like of the age. Oh yeah, by the way, Mitch Gerard's also finding out that who is the artist on the recent Miracle book. It says awesome after finding this out, so that's cool.
That is cool.
Yeah.
All right. So the next story is we'll tag team this back and forth. The latest Aquaman image teases a sword swinging villain.
Yeah. Sure. Okay.
There you go.
Which I'm like, wait, because I'm sitting here thinking, wait, doesn't Black Manta has a sword, or he has a staff or something. I know I've been playing Injustice recently, so I know this is something.
I thought everyone had a trident, but
I mean, Aquaman does have a trident, and it was actually I might be wrong because it's about Manta and Injustice. He's got a couple of things going on for him. Anyway, if you haven't played Injustice and you like fighting games and you like DC characters, hey, that's a good one.
Mm-hmm. Next
anyway, Aquaman surfaces with new photo, promises of classic revenge story in quotes. So cool, which looks like it's the same one, but it came out in 2 different days, so I don't know. Apparently Lundgren's also going to be in Black Manta. I mean in Aquaman, so that's ought to be something.
Alrighty, I'll take the next story. Supergirl Mon-El recruits Brainiac 5 in Legion of Superheroes synopsis.
And
so,
yeah,
this is a thing.
Yeah, been trying to catch up on Supergirl, and actually, it's been kind of neat, kind of catching up because I just got to the point where Supergirl and Flash did their crossover. That was kind of neat for what it was. So I'm slowly catching up for that stuff, and yeah, things are happening.
Alrighty, you got the next one.
Krypton. You would give me this one. I'm just kidding. Krypton date. I know. And teaser here. So Sci-Fi has announced that Krypton and Superman prequel series prequel, not prequel. Anyway.
Well, you need NyQuil, I know. But
no, I was thinking prequel like in Jor-El and all that kind of, but you know, it was terrible. Anyway, will premiere March 21st, 2018. Yeah.
Okay. Well, it's only a few months away, so we'll see how that goes.
Sure.
All right. So our next story is there's a new X-Men Dark Phoenix image that reveals a defeated Magneto. Bum, bum, bum.
So side note, they've been playing, which I guess it makes sense. I have seen no shortage of Fox X-Men movies in the last week or so, because I know I've seen at least twice. Well, I didn't watch all the way through, but the Wolverine I saw like once. First Class, Days. No, I haven't seen Days of Future Past, but I know they're playing it. So they've been showing both the Wolverine movies and the X-Men movies lately. I'm sitting here like, okay, weird. They may have shown Apocalypse, but I'm not sure on FX. So
I don't think so, because I think it was just on like HBO like a couple months ago.
Okay, because I know. Well, I saw an advertisement about it, so maybe they didn't yet, and yeah, I guess it was just in a spot. But then at the same time, they did. I think they showed like with the Wolverine right after that or something.
Gotcha.
So that was weird. But regardless, so yeah, I've been actually kind of like, I still haven't seen Apocalypse, and still don't care to. But you know, eventually I'm going to have to. That did come out this year, right?
What's that?
X-Men Apocalypse. That did come out this year.
I think so.
Yeah. Well, maybe by the time we do end of the year stuff, I will have seen it. Anyway, that's a thing. Dark Phoenix is also coming up, and Images. Bumblebee, the movie, cruises in its first synopsis. The Transformers movie that no one wanted, that's me editorializing, has a synopsis. And it is on the run I should read it like the dude from Transformers. On the run in the year 1987. Finds refuge I can't do that. In a junkyard in small Californian beach town. Charlie on the cusp of turning 18 and trying to find her place in the world discovers Bumblebee, battle scarred and broken. When Charlie revives him, she quickly learns that this is no ordinary VW bug. Sorry, it's not going to be Spike, which we've been on that road. But we're going back to the classic VW bug, which apparently this is related to the other Transformer messes. Yes? No? Something? I don't know. We're getting a Bumblebee movie. Find out. Yeah, I don't know why. But it's not going to be Bay doing it, so I guess that's something. And I don't know if this person who is over it is any related to him. Let's move on. This is depressing.
So I guess we can move into comic news, and a lot of the comic news.
Yeah, before you do that, I will say that we still have, for some strange reason, we still have solicits coming out. So for March, solicits coming out from various places. That was a weird thing to say, but then again, it was a holiday, so that kind of happened.
Right. So our first few comic book news stories are related to some of the things that come up that I didn't necessarily want to dive into in Doomsday Clock. But that comes up. No, one of the things that comes up is because at the end of the day, this became a big part of the conversation about the book. Is that the Doomsday Clock story retcons Metamorpho's origin into a conspiracy theory, and I saw this article in big bold, with the big bold headline on my Facebook feed. So,
yeah, there was another one which is not in the lineup. It's in the it's not in the lineup for news, but it is definitely in there about the mime and one other character being like the breakout characters of Doomsday.
Right, and I mentioned that sort of like in my quick synopsis of the book is that kind of like the highlights of the book so far. Just very quickly, some of the background stuff that's in Doomsday Clock shows that there are slightly different versions of certain stories within the limited series. Also talking about something called the Superman theory, as to why the United States seems to have the highest concentration of metahumans in the DCU. So that's one thing.
Okay, I was about to say, wait, that's not going back to 52, is it?
I don't know. Where's PCN_Dirt when I need them? When we need them. So shout out to Dirt. Just very quickly, this retcon is within the pages of this limited series without really knowing whether or not it's going to have ramifications going forward in the DCU proper. But we see that they have retconned Metamorpho's origin, which I thought was told pretty well in, was it a Batman Brave and the Bold episode?
Guess as good as mine. It probably says so in this artist, I'm sure, in this.
Right. I like that version of it, but because it was far less contrived as his regular origin. At least in superhero comics terms, as you put in your summary. So,
well, yeah, it's from the article, but yeah.
Okay.
I mean, this is another Doomsday Clock one. DC's Doomsday Clock is different from most crossovers, says Jeff Johns, and I guess this is what he was talking in an interview. And he says that the whole series is character-driven, and it's all about the characters. We're spending time with the characters, and we're doing moments and directors that I hope are unexpected.
All right. And our third story is about whether or not Dr. Manhattan has been disguised as a DC superhero all along. So, this is teased in this book, whether or not, like where Dr. Manhattan is hiding. So, what we find here is this is one of the conclusions that Ozymandias comes to, is that, well, he may be part of the superhero set that's emerged in the within the United States. So who could that be? I'll ring the spoiler bell, and maybe Roddy Cat, if you want to go with your theory, I'll ring the bell.
Oh, it's not even a theory. This article already says it. I'm already at the point where it says it, and it is Captain Atom.
Makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, it does. Blue dude, energy. Sure. I don't know that much about Watchmen, but I know. Sure.
Right. The kicker is that Captain Atom's biggest weakness was always that containment suit.
Right.
If whatchamacallit, Dr. Manhattan really is running around as Captain Atom, he has no weakness.
Right. Yeah, that's a weird thing. It was like, okay, he's a big blue glowy bly who with schlong powers or something. I don't know. No containment suit, unless now they're gonna say, well, that was his containment suit version, but I don't know. Again, I don't know anything about.
Yeah, we'll see.
So,
but I like the story that you got next.
And which says that I didn't get to read it, and I'm fully behind on Wonder Woman anyway. But Darkseid is back, fully powered and evil. Really, not Darkseid. Come on. Yes. So this is a spoiler for Wonder Woman 37 from this week.
Let me ring the bell.
Sure. Yep, Darkseid's back.
Well, he's been back, but he's not back fully.
Well, yeah, Darkseid proper.
Right.
So I didn't skim this, but I know the gist of it is that he's back and Zeus is dead because of him coming back. Because I think they got into a fight, and I thought Zeus was already dead at some point, but apparently that wasn't the case anyway. So yeah, that was a big knockout drag out fight between them two. And wait, was this Dark Side? Oh, you may or may not know, because I know, does this have something to do with Wonder Woman's brother?
Maybe.
Probably. It doesn't say. I don't remember it saying.
I skimmed it, so I think it does.
Yeah, and that's was kind of figured, but yeah, like I said, the gist of it I got from kind of skimming this article. Like I said, I'm so behind on Wonder Woman. It was a shame in a way. So yeah, there you go. Darkseid's back. Congrats.
Alrighty. So the City of Vanity in the DC universe has a new protector revealed in Justice League of America number 21, which was out this week, I believe.
It is. Yeah.
And
I think the Ray quit to JLA, and apparently this new protector person may have come by due to something the Ray did or something, if I remember skimming it right.
That's right.
So, and the Rays, have kind of having,
and it's none other than a DC character that was created, I believe, in the late 90s.
All right, it's Aztec.
There you go.
Mm-hmm. So, which my only knowledge of that is going back to do it again, Justice League.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, there you go. Next up, we kind of already talked about this.
Right.
Teen Titans 15 introduces an unexpected new identity for Tim Drake, but it's not that Tim Drake, is future Tim Drake, and yeah, things.
Yep, that's that. So our next story is about an X-Men comic writer talking about unraveling the team's tangled time travel history. So in an interview with Marvel, X-Men Blue writer Cullen Bunn talks about how the young X-Men who are trapped in the present are dealing with hold on. Oh, talking about, just like a lot of the time travel that happens in the X universe or the X-Men corner of the Marvel universe. And he's going to handle it in a certain way in which
that's one way to say it.
Yeah. In which the OG X-Men are allies with one Eric Lyncher now, but in the past there was something different.
Which again, going back to what I said a little while ago, was like, wow, seeing not Days of Future Past, seeing First Class again recently. And when I first saw this article, I was like, wait, are they really using the cinematic timeline to kind of explain some of this? And no, they aren't, but I guess they're just using this picture as an example. I got afraid for one quick second when I saw that.
Oh, time travel is, it's just one of those things. So.
Oh yeah, totally. Especially in the X-Men and whatever. Well, weirdly enough, it's been historically less of an X-Men thing than more of a Fantastic Four / Avengers thing. But yeah, definitely. Well, X-Men has done some major time travel, so I shouldn't say that. Regardless, here's the thing: they're going to try to explain it all. And I was going to ask, wait, because they said, isn't Jean Grey dead? Young Jean Grey dead?
Maybe.
I mean, maybe. Oh, they killed her in her last. Anyway, okay, never mind.
I don't remember. I don't remember.
I don't know. So, because when they named her in this book, in this article, I'm like, well, wait, isn't she supposed to be? No. Anyway,
I don't think so. But
sure.
Because I don't think that she's been taken off the board like that in the wake of the Phoenix story. So, because I think that's what you're referring to.
Kinda, yeah. Because I know her book is ending. And remember,
she's still running around in X-Men Blue.
Well, yeah, but who knows when that's going to catch up? Or
Right.
So, anyway, it kind of doesn't matter. It's all timey-wimey anyway for you Doctor Who folks.
I was about to say, now we're moving into the canceled book section of the news. She-Hulk has joined the list of Marvel Comics cancellations. Pour one out for the She-Hulk book.
Yeah, which I think when we talked about it last week, there was some rumblings of it anyway. So this is not. This is kind of not new news.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but it's going to be, and I think we didn't talk about Gwenpool, which hey, who's reading that book anyway? Is also getting canceled. Was also in that thing, but we talked about the other ones already, so we don't have to go through that. And Marvel's Brevoort reminds readers that even X-Men was canceled one, and I say to you, because so X-Men has got 5 books out now. X-Men has, even if when it was canceled, was not canceled for long, and that still doesn't explain the fact that there are books that are not getting marketed to people who could have been reading these books. They're not marketing to. So to sit here and say, well, X-Men and I think, matter of fact, they use X-Men and Incredible Hulk. Yeah, matter of fact, he says here in that quote, it is worth pointing out again, Incredible Hulk was canceled once, X-Men was canceled once, Thor was canceled once. Being canceled is not necessarily the end of the story, nor does it reflect the value of the work. Guess what? Every last one of those names still have books since they've been canceled the once. And once again, we got 5 X-Men books. We got like 5 Spider-Man books. I think Totally Awesome Hulk is on the chopping block, but
I think Totally Awesome Hulk's on the chopping block because they want to bring the Incredible Hulk back.
Right. So
well, actually, no. Check that. Totally Awesome Hulk has been canceled because Amadeus is in the Incredible Hulk book right now.
Right. So there you go. Saying that means nothing because every one of those every one of his names have had books since then. The one time they've canceled. So well, I don't know what was the point of saying that when like these books, all of those people are going to get books, and they have been getting books, and they even though it got canceled once, they still got books.
Right. Well, I mean, ultimately, I think one of the things that Brevoort's trying to get at is, none of these characters goes away for good. So as long as someone is, someone has a pitch that Marvel thinks will sell, they'll publish some. They'll publish.
That's BS because again, none of those characters that were named are not going to go for long without being somewhere. Now, when it comes to, like, say the books that are canceled now, like say Iceman, Hawkeye. Like there's
but they've had solo series before. They may have been strictly
never had a solo book. This was his first.
Who, Iceman? Yeah, I was talking about Hawkeye actually.
Well, yeah, but it was different Hawkeye. And even then, though, because like Hawkeye's only had one. Actually, both of them only have had one
solo series
between them, and before that, he had like 2 miniseries.
Right.
So that's but yeah, using I don't know, it's a big thing with me, so I'm gonna let that go. And I think America and Defenders are still kind of on the chopping block also, which is kind of a bummer because America's actually been all right, and it still points to a larger thing that none of the people that he named were not going to go along without a book one way or another. We're talking about these other ones that are not getting marketed to the people that need to be marketed to, that they're not trying to put in push behind them, but yet we got 5 or 10, we got 5 X-Men books and 5 Spider-Man books, but yet like books like America are not getting, or hell, I'd even go so far as to say Black Panther, because there were 3 books, there were 3 ongoing, 2 of them got canceled, and we got a couple of miniseries coming up, sure, but wouldn't you want to push more of that stuff when you got a movie coming with that? But no, they're not pushing that stuff.
I think they're waiting for the movie to come out because
because they've done, like, how many characters have they brought back though before? I'm
not going to get into this now because we're at the tail end of the show. Because I think this is a subject that we really should devote a good portion of the show to. At the end of the day, I think when it comes to the Black Panther push, I think they wanted to take advantage of the character's introduction in the MCU. And more of a exposure, right? Thanks to Captain America: Civil War, and it's been able to sustain its regular title, but it was the spin-offs that suffered
But if they marketed those properly, they probably could have. But they haven't been. Like they don't get nowhere near the same amount of marketing as Spider-Man does, or the Thor, and which is a surprise, or X-Men. Lord knows that neither one of them needed it. Maybe excuse me, not Thor, but Spider-Man and X-Men.
I may not be. I was about to say I may not be in the target demographic for the marketing because I don't see it. I don't see any marketing. Period. I just happen to know what's out because we're seeing, because you're in tune with the news. So
right, but that's the point. The people that could be getting the marketing and should be are not. Like they're only marketing what they're marketing, but they've been off and on blaming the fact that it's low sales and nobody wants in this. Well, you can't want something that you don't know about. And especially if they're not marketed, and if retailers are not pushing these books because they, I don't want to say people have an agenda, but like people are going to market stuff that are popular, and they're not going to give a chance to stuff that they're not. Like you said, the demographic is not them. They're not going to push it.
Right. Like, but at the end of the day, but at the end of the day, right? Think of it like this: where do you see your ads? Right. And I can't believe we're going down this road because this is a deeper conversation that should be had about, just marketing for comics in general, because sales are so low in comparison to where they can be. And, like who are we really marketing these books to? That's, I think, the bigger question, because based on, something that we were speaking about earlier, which is the fact that I've now been kind of forced to deal with previews and, filling out a pull list that, that looks, 2 or 3 months in advance. And that's pretty much what I'm looking at in terms of books that I might be enticed into buying. So, who's this focused towards? The regular readers who might be willing to experiment. That's really the only people that they're advertising to.
Honestly, and we won't have to believe it too much longer, but I think it could be both. Because you think about it, there are people that are coming into these that could possibly be coming into these books because of the MCU. I'm not saying that's a big spread because that's kind of thin. But there are more people.
No, but see, that's the thing. I think that's not necessarily true, because I don't think that there is much of a crossover appeal as we would hope there is. And I think the sales numbers actually bear that out, because we're not getting that kind of push from the movies, because no one goes straight from the movie theater to the comic book store. At least very few people do, and not enough to really support all of these brand new books. Because I could have told you from jump that all of these kind of thrown at the wall books to see what sticks, we're going to go the way the dodo months ago, because I just couldn't see what the appeal was. I couldn't see who would be buying these in terms of what, of what's selling right now, and in terms of what people are seeing in comics in general. Forget the movies that are coming out. DC can barely sell one Wonder Woman book.
Once again, I see what you're saying, and I agree with you. You're right. There's not a one-to-one like, hey, people are going from the movie theaters to go to, but you can't say that might not be happening at all.
I think based on the sales numbers, it's happening on a very small basis.
I mean, we don't know what's all. Like I said,
I think we do know, because it's based on, I'm strictly going on sales numbers. And if you look at sales numbers, and I wish PCN_Dirt were here to kind of read.
Yeah, all he's going to say, all he would say is that, hey, it doesn't sell in his shop, and that's not helping anything.
No, but not in his. Well, consider that like his shop's numbers, and the little shop that I frequent in New York would probably have, while they have different sales demographics, at the end of the day, when we're talking about these books that are trying to find a new audience, they're still going to run into the same problems.
Yeah, but at the same time, and we can close this out after this, because this is a conversation for probably another time. Like I'm not saying I don't disagree with you about the movies are not pushing the comics. I can definitely see that, but again, I'm still going back to the point to where I feel like there are people that would. In fact, I have seen at the very least once where that happened with once in my old shop with Wonder Woman. I'm not saying it's an ongoing thing, but I have seen it with my own eyes that it happened. That's all I'm going to say. And
Right.
and
I was about to say, and the last point I want to make on this is that I think that there is a bigger problem that needs to be addressed, and what that problem is the the exposure that comic books has, in terms of supporting our hobby, supporting our favorite, one of our favorite hobbies, because in a sense we're the market has shrunken to the point where what's happening is there's only so much, you can only get so much blood out of these carcasses. You know what I mean? Like if you think of them as vampires, right? We can only regenerate so much, so much revenue for these, for these companies. So, I think when it comes down to decisions, everyone's going to start looking at how much all this stuff costs, and they make a lot of these decisions based upon what they can afford to try. So,
yeah, they might have found that they don't have problems pushing that blood out of Batman's turnips. And
well, yeah, because they can rely on. See, that's the thing. They can rely on that to pay the rent.
They could probably rely on some of these other ones if they gave them proper push, or at the very least a small bump. I'm not gonna say, because you're right. Yes, they can definitely get way more out of Batman than some of these other books. I'm not denying that at all, but I'm just saying.
Right. I honestly think it's I think it's symptomatic of a bigger problem with comics in general. So, because there's only so much exposure they get, and we all thought that digital would have helped at this point, and it may still. The exposure for digital may still get people in the game, but until now, at this point, I'm still having a lot of trouble seeing how the industry itself, can support itself on the sales that it's getting. Forget, trying, new things here and there. You get blips on the screen that bring attention and might raise profiles, so like something like The Walking Dead, but that's that's pretty, it's been pretty limited in my understanding, at least based on monthly sales numbers, just overall sales. Forget individual stores. I'm just talking about overall.
Yeah, moving right along.
Like I said, we'll have a lot more to say about this. I know that this is a sensitive spot for Roddy because there are books that he's supporting that are going the way of the dodo, and it's a tough thing to see. Books that you've been supportive of and really like to read.
Well, and it's not just that,
kind of get pushed aside for the fifth X-Men. Yeah.
But yes, it is that, and it's because they keep blaming one thing when it's not just the one. Like they keep blaming fans for stuff that they have that
I think they're right, but that's it. I think they're right, but at the same time, there's only a limited number of fans that
I don't think they can. You can't put that on just the fans. You can't. There's no way, especially if they're not doing what they're doing. If they're just putting the book out there and it just languishes. You mean to tell me they have no kind of cause for? They have no kind of
who sees the advertising? Sees it. Sees it. Is it the insular? Is it the insular population of comic book fans who look at it and say, "Well, I don't know if I want to try this yet"?
Well, I mean, but you're also going to have those people who don't care, one way or the other, because they are set in their ways and don't care about anything.
Yeah, that's going to be a percentage. I mean, but again, we're talking about kind of like what we were saying before about like one store's numbers versus another store's numbers. That's one set of fans versus another set. Changing their minds, much like it is in the world of politics, may not ever be possible because they're set in their ways. But when it comes down to it, there's only as a result of the low volume of sales and the small fan base that you're selling to, I think it makes it that much harder. And again, like I said, we can talk about this might even be a discussion for a spin-off. For a whatchamacallit, a treasury edition, like what's wrong with comics today or something like that. It might, that might be a topic.
A little bit more fiction, whatnot, to kind of bear some of that stuff out. But
exactly. So where do we leave off?
Comics fans is stupid. For your things. Anyway, Spider-Man 2 finale features biggest surprise of the year. We already talked about that. We can go past that. Bendis's Punisher miniseries is officially not happening. So apparently Bendis was supposed to write a miniseries called Punisher End of Days. It's not going to happen because he's gone over to the dark. It's a distinguished competition, as some would say.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one of the ones that's on the block. Plus, he's been sick. I think he was in the hospital recently.
Right, he was in critical condition at some point. So,
but he seems to be doing better. So,
right, it's putting a delay on some of the books, and I guess this having not really been something that was completed, or I don't know how far along, if at all, he got in this. So, this book was dropped. So.
Yeah, sounds like they had some stuff going on, and sounds like David Mack, the artist, has done more on it than he has. Sounds like, from according to this article, but yeah, it doesn't sound like it was all. But basically, he says here, like, yeah, if Marvel wants to, do it, then hey, let them roll it. But yeah, and it also says here that Iron Man 600 is going to be his final issue of that series.
So yesterday was, believe it or not, the 95th birthday for one Stanley Lieber, aka Stan the Man Lee, and everybody decided to show him love yesterday.
Mm-hmm. Sound like some of it's still going. Yeah, but yeah, it's just like people took to Twitter and saying all the kind of nice things, including some, comics professionals and cinematic celebrities.
Yep.
The Star Wars of the Marvel universe. So it was cool to see. Yeah, here's to 95 more years, which I know is like
if anyone can do it, it's Stan.
Right? So, yes, happy birthday to Stan Lee. And by the way, that was December 28th, which is the 29th as we're recording. So, little behind the scenes there. Bye, Ego. Mike Mignola comments on BRPD's major surprise return tease. Apparently, somebody comes back. I don't know. In The Devil You Know #5, which I think just got released. I'm not big on anything in that universe, so I don't know. Oh wait, it says here that per the Hollywood Reporter, discovered that a coffin that appears to contain Hellboy, and it appears that he's opening his eyes. So I guess Hellboy was dead and I was not.
That's news to me.
Yeah, go figure. Oh wait, it says here also Hellboy was killed off in 2011's Hellboy the Fury, which was
has he been killed off for that long?
Apparently, which was followed by a 10-issue Hellboy in Hell series, which I remember Dirt talking about, which ran 2012 2016. It is not yet known exactly when and where the story will take place, but keep reading.
All right. So next up, Goat returns in Quantum and Woody #3. All right.
New comic Quantum Woody book, and I think the first issue might have already come out.
Yes, it did drop last week.
Yeah, and I never read it, but I need to finish. I need to get back on that stuff. It's written by Daniel Kibblesworth, who wrote for Daily Show, Late Late Show with Stephen Colbert. Regardless, it's out there, and the Goat's coming back, which I hear, and not LL Cool J, but here he's yeah.
Congratulations to James Todd Smith on being given the Kennedy Center honor earlier this month.
Yes, that was a few nights ago, I believe, when they aired that. Was Light was there, but was she also? I know it was him and Gloria Estefan, but I know Light was there, but I thought she didn't get honored or anything, right?
Who's that?
MC Light.
No, she was part of the tribute.
Gotcha. Okay. Every Ghostbuster ever will unite in new IDW crossover, because IDW can't help themselves in their Ghostbusters crossovers. So now they're just throwing every last single one of them they have ever did together in an upcoming 8-issue crossover event called Ghostbusters Crossing Over. And yes, that includes the newly answered the call ones, who also think they have an ongoing book now, I know there's a book out for them now, but they were also in a crossover with another version of the IDW Ghostbusters. That actually was a pretty decent book, Ghostbusters 101. That was kind of neat. So yeah, another Ghostbusters crossover amongst the bunches of them.
All right, so this is something I hadn't read yet. A new binge age distribution model promises triple-sized $3.99 comics. So
Yeah, I kind of skimmed this. I'm not entirely sure what in the world this is. So
Bigger comics.
So what?
Is that what it is? It's just bigger comics.
Yeah, but I wouldn't say this is going to be from like Marvel. Let's just put it. But it's like a new initiative. They're trying to get comic retailers to kind of to get with the programmer, and according to this list, they got a bunch of people on board from various states to do, but yeah, I'm not sure what in the world this is supposed to be.
Right. I think just from the headline, I guess what it is it's trying to provide whole stories at a lower price so that people feel like they're getting the bang for the buck as opposed to being milked, like I said, by the vampires every week.
Yeah, because I mean, let's face it, folks. We know as much as anybody. $4 for a book and $4 and $5 for a book. That's a lot to ask for people for 20 pages.
I was about to say that's another part of the reason, that's one of the things that I was talking about earlier. So, do you want to talk about the next one? Because I didn't really look at this, but I read very quickly that this was. I figured there would be catches upon catches.
So, new Marvel Comics services come with an amusing list of restrictions. So, what it sounds like is there's going to be a new Marvel app coming to where you can kind of, sort of, maybe possibly try to make your own comic, except for you have things that you can't do with it. Like curse or, probably put out for profit more than likely. Makes sense. So yeah, it's called the Marvel Create Your Own app. It's a digital platform that gives the users the ability to create their own comics using Marvel characters, kind of. So you can see if you're watching the video, there's a video here about it, and it's using Gwenpool, and she's got a gun.
Well, I was gonna say, which is the kind of the worst character to use as the as the lead.
But I guess if you got to get your point across to something, then yeah. But you can, it says users will gain access to a library of posable Marvel character designs, props, balloons, sound effects, word balloons, all that kind of good stuff that you can, like I said, make your own. Doesn't see. I like how they use Next Wave as a caption. I mean, as a
sample.
As a sample. That's funny. But yeah, we don't know when, and it sounds like it's got a lot of prohibition.
Yeah, there's limitations to what you can write, and from what I can tell, I initially thought that the hubbub might have been over who owns the content, but that was my first instinct. Right? Anytime you're dealing with corporate-owned characters, it's all about, you're trying to figure out who would own the intellectual property of the story. But apparently it's more, there's some representation here as well.
It sounds like it's very limited to what you can do with it. And obviously, since, they know that people are going to do some real stupid stuff with it, then yeah, they're trying to put some of that in the board. So we shall see. But it seems, I mean, we'll check it out, or somebody will figure it out.
It's introduced. And last but not least, this story is kind of hits me right in the sweet spot of collectible, of amassing large collections of things. So there's a record-setting X-Men memorabilia collection that held over 15,000 items.
That's ridiculous.
I mean, that's a lot.
That's ridiculous.
Does he own like every single toy line? Jeez.
So apparently this is one Eric Jakolska, excuse me for yeah, he's got 15,400 pieces that goes from toys to clothes to candy.
Right, because there's only so many X-Men comic books.
Sure, and I'm going to assume there's like a buttload of and obviously any of the like the DVDs and from the X-Men from the X-Men.
He's got like all the Pez dispensers, and he's got all the bobbleheads, the whatchamacallit, the Funko Pops.
Yeah, he's even got the Superhero Squad stuff. They probably got the Marvel Legends stuff. That's some of these things you've gotten. So Yeah, there's the video is here, so he's.
I may have to watch that and just kind of laugh, be like, I have that, but I can't believe that guy bought that. Like, so that's who buys that stuff.
Mm-hmm. I mean, that we have. I don't know who the people you follow on Twitter, but there are some big X-Men fans out there. Like, I'm not a fan of any of these characters. Like, I'm a fan of certain characters. I'm a fan of comic book fans. Not enough to get to this point.
Yeah, that's a lot. Too. That's
at the funds for it. I can't see myself getting to this.
That's a lot. That's a little bit on the obsessive side.
Yeah. So, and I'm saying that where I'm kind of surrounded by boxes of collector stuff, but that's neither here nor there. We don't have to.
Yeah, we're not delving into that.
Yeah, let's move along. So.
All right. So we are at the end of the news segment. I'm going to read our last ad of the night, and then we can kind of wrap the show and kind of tease. I guess it seems like we've got a whatchamacallit, a Treasury edition lined up when it comes to 2018, talking about some of the bigger issues in the world of comic books. So let's get to the last ad of the night. This ad is for Blue Apron's meal delivery service. Blue Apron. Blue Apron has fresh ingredients and incredible recipes delivered weekly to your door. Skip the grocery store and make incredible meals at home with Blue Apron. Always shipped free right to your home. And now the listeners of the KLIQ Nation's Comic Book Chronicles can get $30 off your first Blue Apron order. To place your first order with $30 off and to help keep our show free for you, go to our network website at cspn.us. That's cspn.us. Then click on the Keep Our Podcasts free link at the top of the page. From there, scroll down to the Blue Apron link and sign up for your first order. Blue Apron through cspn.us. Do it today. All right. So I promised to do the outro.
Well, before you do that, I just remember something. I did get a couple of things in the mail.
Nice.
And I'll go through them real quickly. So I got a package so I kickstarted both of these, so it's worth saying that up front. And I finally got them. First up, from Black Mask, I have my trade copy of Black, which was we've talked about this before. It's basically the trade of the story of what if only Black people got powers. And I can't remember. We may have talked about it. I know we've talked about it at least once on the show, but we haven't gone in depth with it. But got a trade of that from them, and also got chapter 2. I'm not sure what in the world that is in physical copy, and I also got chapter 6, which is the finale of it in paper copy on that one, and it also came in the package. So what?
That was included in the package?
Yeah.
Cool.
I don't remember. So I did this so long ago, I couldn't remember what all came in this. Because I think I'm still only missing one other Kickstarter thing that I've gotten. That I haven't gotten yet. But it also came with these buttons. It also came with these stickers, which I think I'm gonna put this particular one on my for those watching the video, says Black AF. So, and it comes with some other stickers.
Sure.
And, it's like little character cards. So that's cool for that one. And then the second one comes from Bingo Press, which is T. Franklin, an Inclusive Press. Her book, Bingo Love, which is the story of it's a two-story is a story of two ladies who met over bingo and have a love affair over like years and years and years. So figured, hey, you know what? Why not give that a shot? It goes from like 63 to kind of the present. I haven't read either one of them yet because I just got them. Well, I've read some of Black prior to well before now, but I don't know, it was a while ago and I don't remember. But in this one, you got a sticker also. You got little keychain thing here, and T. Franklin's business card, which is cool. Like, should get some need some better business cards made because we got some. But anyway, that's in the store from another time. So that's it. Now, if you want to close out the store, because I don't think I have anything else.
All right. I just wanted to mention, I think I may have done this once on the show already, but I did get the Defenders box set from Amazon, and cool art by Ken Lashley on the cover. It does come with Daredevil, Jewel, Luke Cage, and Iron Fist in various slightly different variations on other figures. So that was cool. It was nice to get this at a discount post Cyber Monday. So, I think it was an Amazon deal of the day at one point. That's what, and like I said, I'm not 100% sure I brought it up, but if I did, I apologize for bringing it up a second time. But I'm glad I waited on this because I did save a few bucks. So on that note, we are in between the Christmas holiday and New Year's. So if you are out and about trying to figure out what to do for New Year's, pull up our show. You can contact us with any comments through our social media. I am at Agent_70 on Twitter and Instagram. Roddycat is on Twitter as at Roddycat and at News Nerds Need, and you can follow his Instagram. The CB Caps, our Comic Chronicles cap account. That's CB Caps on Instagram, and our Missing in Action co-hosts, Tim Dog 98 is at Tim Dog 98 on Twitter, and he operates the at KLIQ Nation and at CB Cron Twitter accounts, and follow, and you can contact us at www.thekliqnation.com as well. PCN_dirt. He of the long sabbatical is on Twitter as at PCN_dirt and at popculturenet. And you can go to his website, popculturenetwork.com. We will have a show next week. It is unlikely that Tim Dog 98 will be with us.
No, he will not, but it'll be us. We'll be here.
So we will hold it down. We will have the first show of the new year. Look forward to a couple of things in the new year. One of them being our recap of our best and worst of 2017. That'll be coming soon in the first month of 2018, as well as something that I guess we'll need to have a deeper discussion on, which kind of has come up repeatedly in the past and came up again tonight, which is the state of the state of comics and some of the more troubling trends of books that just can't get off the ground, even in mainstream comics, and what can be done to help those books out that don't sell as well and are often led by characters who need who need more of a push. So be on the lookout for that.
Indeed.
So with that, we are the Comic Chronicles, and I'm going to play out with a pretty funny clip from pretty much the best New Year's movie from the 80s, at least. On behalf of at Roddycat, at TimDog98, and at PCN_dirt, we'd like to wish everyone Merry New Year, and you'll know why I said that in a second. And happiness and health to all of you. We are the Comic Chronicles, and we are signing out. Again, Merry New Year.
Merry New Year!
Happy New Year. In this country, we say Happy New Year.
Thank you for correcting my English, which stinks. I am Nanja Ibuko, exchange student from Cameroon.
Good evening, Rick. Would you believe it's Dr. Doom?
your evil mind.